Hello everybody, I'm Chris Sims from ComicsAlliance.com, and if you think you know comics, here are a dozen facts you may not know about the Guardians of the Galaxy. Given that they starred in the biggest movie of the year, most people are probably familiar with the modern incarnation of the Guardians of the Galaxy, who appeared back in 2008 during the Annihilation crossover. The team was originally created all the way back in 1969 by Arnold Drake and Gene Colan. Drake, of course, is also the co-creator of the Doom Patrol, another team of weird misfits. Back then, the team was a group of heroes from the 30th century who would occasionally pop back to the present day, or the present day of 1969, to enlist the help of Marvel superheroes in their cosmic adventures. It wasn't until 1990 that they got their own series, though, which sort of functioned as Marvel's equivalent to DC's Legion of Superheroes, and saw the Guardians exploring a strange world of the future, which had strange future problems, like a planet that was populated entirely by people who wanted to be the Punisher. Of course, this being the 90s, there were also a lot of stories about Wolverine, even though it took place 1,000 years in the future. You just cannot get rid of that guy. The original team was made up of characters like Major Victory, who was essentially the Future's version of Captain America, Charlie 27, Martin X, and Yondu, a spacefaring archer from the planet Centauri 4 who could control the direction of his arrows by whistling, something that actually made it into the film, which is an even bigger surprise than that movie being about a talking tree and a talking raccoon. Their primary enemies were the militaristic Badoon, a race of aliens that were separated along gender lines and set out to conquer most of the galaxy. In the present-day Marvel Universe, it was said that almost 38% of the Milky Way was under Badoon control, but nobody really considered them a threat since they didn't rival the spacefaring empires of the Kree and the Skrulls. At least, nobody thought they were a threat until Vance Astro traveled back in time to warn us, and was found in a block of ice by a team of heroes who had just come through the Annihilation crossover in need of a team name, and decided to take Astro's suggestion and call themselves the Guardians of the Galaxy. And that brings us to the modern incarnation of the Guardians of the Galaxy. Star-Lord, Gamora, Drax the Destroyer, Groot, and Rocket Raccoon first united to face down Annihilus, a galaxy-conquering madman from the Negative Zone, who probably wasn't seen in the movie because he's actually a Fantastic Four villain, and those rights are held by another company. So let's talk about a few members of that team, starting with Peter Quill, better known as the outlaw hero Star-Lord. Like the rest of the characters in Guardians of the Galaxy, he wasn't new. He was originally created by Steve Englehart and Steve Gann back in 1976. Englehart originally pitched him as, and I quote, an unpleasant introverted jerk who would grow and change over the course of adventures in the solar system before going out into deep space as a slightly more likable hero. Unfortunately, that never happened. Steve Englehart left Marvel while Star-Lord was still kind of a jerk, and the character never really caught on. Every now and then, though, some creators would dust him off and give him another shot. And one of those stories was the first ever collaboration by Chris Claremont, John Byrne, and Terry Austin, the team that would go on to make the Uncanny X-Men Marvel's hottest property. There was also another miniseries about another version of Star-Lord, written by Timothy Zahn, who is best known as the writer of the expanded universe Star Wars novels that Star Wars fans will insist are the good ones. A lot of people out there like Grand Admiral Thrawn, y'all. As for Gamora, she was raised as the adopted daughter of Thanos, the Mad Titan, the guy with the Infinity Gauntlet, and once lived inside the Soul Gem until she came out and possessed the body of a woman named Bambi Long. The 90s were a strange time. Now, Thanos might not seem like the fatherly type, so you might be wondering just why it was that he adopted Gamora and raised her as his own daughter. Well, as it turns out, Gamora is the last survivor of her species. The rest of them were wiped out by the Badoon, the traditional enemies of the Guardians of the Galaxy. As for the other members of the team, well, one's a raccoon, one's a tree, and one really likes to stab people. That's pretty much all you need to know. That's it for this episode of You Think You Know Comics. Make sure to subscribe, like Comics Alliance on Facebook, follow Comics Alliance on Twitter, and get the latest comic news on ComicsAlliance.com.